What's up, guys? Welcome to the first ever episode 22 of the Kind of Funny Gamescast. Now, as always, are you okay?
Yeah, I just shaved off the handlebar mustache, and I feel like there's little pieces in my mouth.
Little,
you know what I mean?
some
So you
fuzzy
inhale a bit.
fuzzies?
Yeah. And I definitely have one long hair there.
Whatever, I hate when that happens. It's just going to annoy you, and you can keep licking your lips, and your lips are going to get really dry, then you need chapstick. It's the whole thing. You're flying to Atlanta tomorrow. We're going to MomoCon.
I gotta bring chapstick. On airports and airplanes is when my lips get the worst, and I always, for some reason, forget it, because I gotta take it out of my pocket when I go through security or whatever, because the new backscatter machines and shit.
The what?
Backscatter machines.
Backscatter.
Yeah, that's what they're doing when you do this. Backscatter technology is what it's called.
Wow. I did not know that. Yeah. I always just keep the chapstick in my backpack just at all times.
Chapstick.
Just so I just have it. What's the difference between chapstick and... Actually, no.
Blistex?
Lip balm. That's what I
think
was
it's the same thing, isn't it?
It's
Same
like
principle.
Band-Aid. Chapstick is a brand name. Band-Aid is a brand name. Band-Aid is a Band-Aid. Yeah, exactly. Adhesive bandages and then lip balms.
I'm Tim Gettys. I am joined with the coolest dudes in video games, Colin Moriarty and Greg Miller. Now, I'm really excited about that name because I think it's going to stick.
Miller?
Yeah,
it's
Greg
gonna
Miller.
stick.
And then the coolest dudes thing.
Oh, sure.
Because
you're talking about lip balm.
No, lip balm. I don't know if they're gonna make it. That one, it's on its way out. But the coolest dudes in video games.
Yeah, that's
you're
good.
just gonna continue getting cooler.
Oh wow!
I think that's
I'm
how
getting
it's
older. So
I was gonna say that's what they always say. The old people are the coolest ones in the room.
But I'm just hoping
As
that
we
one
continue
day,
to shit on MOBAs and everything else that's popular in the moment.
one day I hope that there's some box that just has a box quote, like some video game, and it just says "coolest dudes in video
We
games."
got the other. I can't tell you about it on the air for sure. We got approached for the first ever. Hey, we want to use one of your quotes from Kind of Funny in a video game ad campaign. I was like, oh, we made it.
Wow,
That's
we
fantastic.
really did. That's actually a big deal.
Yeah.
I'm excited about that. I hope it was something Nick said.
Yeah, right. I don't know what this game is. Nick Scarpino.
So Nick was supposed to be here for this episode. As you can see, there's a cup there. That's your cup. That's my cup. For a second.
Am I drinking Nick's
but
water?
it's symbolic.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's very symbolic of the amount that he needs
Dinklebach
to
can sit in
pee.
for him.
Actually, first off, the rigmarole of this whole show, ladies and gentlemen, if you don't know, this is the Kind of Funny Gamescast. Every week we talk about video games for about an hour, sometimes a little more than an hour. And then we break it up topic by topic over the week at youtube.com/kindoffunnygames. Friday, you can get the full episode. You can get it the previous Friday early on patreon.com/kindoffunnygames. And it's really cool. You should do that because this one is worth $1.
Is it?
I don't think I've ever said that for Gamescast.
That it's worth $1? Because it's never
Because
been
it's
worth
never
$1.
been worth $1.
No, I guess you're right.
I won't lie. I thought last week was a fucking stellar.
it was
episode.
good.
We've been on the swing. We're getting in the groove that I'm always talking about. The groove is in the heart.
So the topics I chose today were geared around having Nick in the conversation, but we can obviously have this conversation without him, as we do many times about many different
We've talked
things.
about games once or twice without Nick.
Yes, exactly. So the first topic right now, we've done this a couple times. I want it to be a reoccurring topic.
Oh.
We've done it 2 or 3 times already.
Okay, you're
That's
holding up
just-
3 fingers, so I imagine it's 3.
What are you playing right now?
Oh, The Witcher.
And every time we do this, people really like it.
Hey, fans,
And
it's
then
me,
they
Greg.
respond, they let us know what they're playing.
I've been playing The Witcher.
Okay, so Witcher. You've been playing a lot of Witcher?
Yeah.
You've been streaming a lot of Witcher.
I've been streaming a lot of Witcher.
You've been
over
having
on
a lot of sex in The Witcher.
twitch.tv/kindoffunnygames.
Can't just play a game.
No, that's not true.
You've been having sex in The
I've
Witcher.
had sex with 2 lovely ladies. I think I've in the way the story evolved with one I don't want to spoil for you or you. I've pretty much, I believe, sworn my allegiance to one in terms of my love. I told her I
going
love
steady.
her and stuff. Exactly. And
But
so
those are
now,
just words.
Exactly. But this is the whole thing. How much do you know about the relationships in this game? Anything?
I've had one encounter.
I live with the fucking Witcher encyclopedia, so I'm well briefed on the fact that there's this like love triangle.
Grandma. You're talking about Grandma Georgina.
Grandma Georgina in there, sleeping in the bed, playing her Witcher, all this stuff. I know all about that there's a choice between these 2 ladies that are your real love interests. I've already seemingly chosen one because I said that I love her and all that stuff, but it wasn't like the game didn't make a big deal about it. But I do really care for this girl more than the other girl, and the other girl I think's kind of a bitch. But here's the fun thing about living with the encyclopedia is that last night I came to bed and I was all yawn, putting on my nightcap and stuff, and Christine's like, "Oh, I just banged the other one." I'm like, "Oh, cool, that's awesome. Was it a hot sex scene?" She's like, "Let me show you," and she reloaded the save and played through that sex scene. So I got the best of both worlds. going
Imagine if in real life you could replay sex scenes.
I do it every night.
I
up
would
in
never
here.
leave my house.
Yeah, oh man, that'd be just good.
That'd be awesome.
That's the
real
real
good.
power of Morpheus.
Reliving Greg Miller's botched sex life.
We're working on the app right now, so you too can feel the shame of just like I don't know why it's not working.
Have you been playing a lot of The Witcher?
Yeah, I played a lot of The Witcher. I've played, I'd say, as much as Greg, but I'm playing in a different way, so I've not gone as far as he has because I'm just way more meticulous and OCD about it. So the maps in the game are filled with question marks, like sometimes like 150 of them at the time, and they're basically just like little things that you can go find, but I'm just doing all of that. Like I am leveled twice as high as I should be to where I am in the game.
Your quests are level 6, right? You
yeah,
say
like
you're
my
level
main
12.
quest is like, you should be level 6 when you do this, and I'm like, nah, I'm good. I'm level 12 right now.
No, I'm good.
And I'm just running around like fighting and doing things. It's a very immersive game. I mean, we're going to Atlanta for 5 days, and we have a lot of downtime while we're there. And I'm bringing my PS4 so I can play that and just kind of get through more, because I don't like. Now is the time. Like, Batman's coming right around E3, and like now is the time where it's time to strike. But it's a really special game. I've said it before, and people are mad at me. I like Dying Light more. I think Dying Light's a better game. It's more fun to play, I think, which is important to me. Gameplay is important. And they're very similar in the sense that they're both open world quest-based games with lots of just random ass shit out there. That said, I think The Witcher's world is beautifully realized. I think the lore is pretty interesting. The characters are interesting. I've talked about it before, but the lighting effects are like astounding in The Witcher. I don't know how they did it. Some people were giving me shit when I said this game was prettier or not as pretty as The Last of Us. And they're like, yeah, and some people I'm like, this game is not nearly as good looking as The Last of Us, of course, but it's an open world game. They have to make some decisions to make the game run better by getting rid of some of these beautiful textures and all these kinds of things. But I think there's something about the world that's very realistic and very lived in that makes me want to keep going back to it. The way the weather interacts with the world, the trees swaying in the wind, the lived in nature of the towns and the villages, the kind of the dirty nature of like the way people look and the ragged nature. I don't know. There's just something cool about the world in this game. That
you make changes that influence the world, which are cool, in both on purpose and not on purpose. Where I've done side quests where then it'll pop back up that I should check in on those people, and I go back and this is evolved, something's changed here. I talk to you. There's been side quests I complete and I don't get go check in on them, but I ride past that house and things have changed, and I hop out and I'm like, oh, you took my advice and did that. That's really cool, and they're not beating me over the head with it. And the opposite thing is I've done what you're doing, where I spent an afternoon running around exploring, right, and doing all these different things. Ran into this weird ass talking tree or whatever, right? I'm like, well, you have to fucking die, kill it, and then I, later on in the story, I get, and they're like, you have to make a choice between this and that. I'm like, oh, maybe I shouldn't have killed that tree. You know what I mean? Like, crap.
There's something special too about the organic nature of the way quests pop up and stuff like that. You find just letters or notes or books like stowed away somewhere, and it just opens a quest. I ran into a guy in a road. And it was raining at night, and I just rode by him, and a quest thing popped up. I didn't even talk to him, and then I just rode past him, and I failed the quest. Because I didn't talk to him right at that point. I'm like, that sucks, but I mean, that's just the nature of the game I'm playing. Because I've only failed 3 quests so far, and I've probably completed scores of them at this point. But yeah, I've been playing a lot of Witcher 3, and I still need to get back to the Old Blood too, because there's something fundamentally awesome about machine games and the way they do their shooters. It's the Wolfenstein DLC. It's just nice to go back and play more of that game. I platinumed Wolfenstein: The New Order, and I want to do the same with the Old Blood. And there's a lot in the game. The coolest thing about the game is, and this is spoilery, so I'm going to give you a second in case you care about the story. The game is a prequel to The New Order, but a sequel in some ways to the original Wolfenstein 3D that came out in 91, 92. And during BJ Blazkowicz is the main character, and he finds in each mission, if you search hard enough, a sleeping bag or a little nook where he sleeps, like where he can rest. And every time you sleep, he has nightmares of the first time he was in Castle Wolfenstein, and the nightmares are the original game. And you play the original
with
game
the blocky graphics.
Yeah, like so.
That's cool.
So like he's like having a nightmare of a stage or a place he was in the original Castle Wolfenstein, and it goes back there, and it's the original game, and you play it.
That's fucking awesome.
And then he wakes up or whatever, and I'm like, this is so. I've said it before, like one of the most clever throwbacks to a previous game in a series that I have ever seen, and I think that's fucking dynamite. Like they're just very thoughtful. A lot of people aren't making single player shooters like this anymore, and they're doing it really well. So I want to support them, and I want to play the rest of this game, do some of the challenge missions and stuff like that, and then sit eagerly to see what they're going to do next, which I assume is more Wolfenstein.
Yeah.
So Nick's been playing a lot of the Metal Gear Ground Zeroes.
Yeah,
and
he's terrible at it. Awful.
But he keeps talking about it, and it's like I like seeing him getting into that. Another thing he was just saying, he told us today that he beat Shovel Knight.
Right.
So that's really exciting because now that I have my PlayStation Vita, similar to my girlfriend.
The Vita is similar to your girlfriend.
Yeah, it deserves the hand motion.
Okay. I like that. I respect that.
I've been playing Shovel Knight. My God, how the hell did I not play this game earlier? I am just completely infatuated with it and in love with it.
There's just so much else in that vast 3DS library.
Well, I mean, including Shovel Knight, though.
Well, I know that's what I'm saying. You couldn't get to it because there's so many other great games in the way.
Oh, you're right.
Like Bejeweled.
No, but Shovel Knight,
Sudoku.
I always knew it was one of those games that as soon as I first saw the first trailer, I was like, there's something about this game. I was a little trepidatious about it though. I was like, I don't know if I'm actually going to play it. It's just I'm happy it's happening, but whatever. Then once you got your hands on it at IGN, and when you reviewed it and stuff, I was like, damn, like that really does look like a cool game that I'd want to play. But then I was like, I don't want to. I was going to get on Wii U, and I was like, I feel like that's right. Like it'd play right. 3DS, I was like, I know I'm not going to like it.
It was most at home
and
on
all that
Wii U,
stuff.
I think, yeah.
But it's just like, system wise, I was like, okay, the Wii U is probably it. But I was like, I'm not going to dedicate my time to that. Just, I'm not going to. And I was like, I'm going to wait. And I was like, that, if I ever get a Vita, I'm going to want that. Then eventually was announced for it. Now I have my Vita, and I'm just like, all right, cool. This will be the game. And man, worth the wait.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where I'm happy I waited. I'm happy I'm playing it now. And it is such a good, especially on my beautiful OLED screen. The colors and stuff, man, they just pop. And it's just
it's
like,
a beautiful game.
It's great. It's like really, really great. And I told myself that I was like, all right, we're flying to Atlanta. And that's going to be the game that I play. And I was like, I want to get into it just to like see if I like it because I want to make sure I'm making the right call. I don't want to dedicate a freaking 6-hour flight to something I'm
you're not gonna
not
like.
into. So I was like, I'll play like a little bit of the opening level. Yeah, right. Like I'm like 3-4 levels in, and it's just like I couldn't stop. I just kept doing it. I keep thinking about it. I keep thinking about all like. I love how many like references and just homages there are to just old school games and all this stuff. And it's like even certain things that I don't really like the pogo stick thing. I don't like the controls of it, like having to jump and then hit down. Not really how I imagine platformers to play and stuff. This game is making me like change my mind on that. Like it works. Like everything about this game feels like it was designed correctly and with a purpose. And you do see a lot of the thought that a lot of these classics games put into each room and like how it teaches you something or like introduces a mechanic and then the next room will have you use it and then the next room really makes you kind of like think about it in a different way. And it's like, it's fucking awesome. And I'm really enjoying it and I'm like excited to see where things are going because a lot of the trailers and a lot of the videos I've seen previously, like I didn't realize there was so much variety in the level types and stuff. Like right now I'm playing a stage where it's like a chemist thing. There's a lot of like chemistry shit going on. It's like I don't know how to explain it. How would you describe
a laboratory?
Yeah, it's like a lab. It's the third level in the game. The third boss level.
Lab is I don't know. It's like a scary lab.
Yeah, it's like an alchemist's lab or
lab.
something. Like that's what night is that? I can't think of it. It's not Spectre Night. Plague Night. And that's the beauty of. And I was saying this because I feel like a lot of people thought. When I had revealed this game at IGN, we had an exclusive on it or whatever, and then I was like really into it. And then I feel like people played it at PAX and stuff, but like I feel like a lot of people just weren't listening to me. Like, because I think a lot of people think like, well, Colin has like significant sensibilities towards these kinds of games, and you have to kind of temper his opinions on them based on your excitement about old 8-bit side-scrolling games like that. Because I fucking love Ninja Gaiden, and I love Castlevania, and I love Mega Man, and all these games, and people just weren't fucking listening. You know what I mean? And I was like, this game is awesome. And slowly but surely, when it came out to Wii U and 3DS, I think it was right at home on Wii U. I think it was great on Wii U. And it was on PC. It started to resonate with people. When now that it's on PlayStation, I get texts. I just saw the Yako guys a couple weeks ago, and they were like, thanks for your support. Because like we're getting, they're getting tweets left and right for people being like, Colin recommended this game. And I'm like, yo, you're not, this is a masterclass in gameplay. This game is astonishingly good. And what I kept saying about it was it borrows elements from great games and great elements from great games. There's a lot of Zelda 2 in this game. There's a lot of Ninja Gaiden and Castlevania in the game. Like the world map is Mario 3. The town structure is Zelda 2. The pogo stick thing is DuckTales and Zelda 2. The sub-weapon thing is Ninja Gaiden and Castlevania. The boss designs are Mega Man. Like everything about it is fucking awesome.
It's the best parts of the games too, without the bad parts. Like it's the good parts of Zelda 2, not the parts you didn't like. You know what I mean? And like that's why I'm like, holy shit! It's like it's so fresh. Things just keep happening. Like all of a sudden, like I got some item, and it's like, oh, go to the town. It's like, well, there's the Zelda 2 town. This is awesome. And then it's like, oh, bring this to the fish in the swamp or whatever. And I'm like, what the hell? And you go, and it's like a level.
Triple.
Yeah, it's like, what the fuck's happening right now?
He's a dope guy.
But it's cool because I thought it was just gonna be a platformer. Like I thought it was totally just going to be a Mario style level by level thing. It's like not, man. There's like so much more there.
There's a mild non-linearity to it, so like certain you can play 2 or 3 stages at a time, just like Mario 3. It's funny because like I've really mastered that game, and watching other people play it, it's fun to watch people play it and the kind of experience. I've beaten that game 20 plus times, maybe. Like so, I beat the game organically in like an hour and 20 minutes to get that, to get my trophy. Like there's a way to cheat to beat the game quickly by like resetting your game and stuff like that. But I actually just did an organic playthrough of it and beat it in like an hour and 20 minutes. And I'm like, when I first picked the game up, it would take me hours and hours to get through the game because I don't think the thing about Shovel Knight that I'm a little disappointed in is it's not that hard.
Well,
and that's like some people think it's like the hardest thing in the world. Like this game is not that hard.
It's challenging. It's not hard, and I think that's what I like so much about it. Is it's like I feel like. And you'll probably disagree with me about this, but like going back and playing the Mega Man games, having not played them before, to me they're just difficult. Like it's I don't want to have to wrap my head around having to use slowdown and stuff to my advantage as part of the actual gameplay. And I feel like this game doesn't do that. This game, the hardest parts so far at least, have been the boss fights, and it's like they're challenging, but it's like. Yeah, you're gonna die a couple times, but then you learn the patterns and stuff, and it's like it definitely brings me back. Like not only does it look like those old games, it reminds me of being a little kid facing off against easy bosses, but not understanding how to beat it, and then eventually clicking and being like, okay, I need to jump now. I can't do this, and it's like it's really fun.
That's a style of gameplay that isn't around anymore, and that's why it's hard. And you both can throw back and harken back to the fact you've played those games before. Whereas somebody who's coming up right now who didn't, their first system was a PlayStation 1, a PlayStation 2. That's a foreign language to them, and that's where when people are like, "This is so hard," it's that they don't know how to speak that language.
That's a really good point, and I think to me something that I'm really latching onto here is they put so much thought into that. They put thought into there's going to be people that don't necessarily have the ability to do this or the drive to want to do this, to take enjoyment from this. To them, it's not going to be fun. And that's why I think the checkpoint system, I've never seen a system like this in any other game, and it's fucking brilliant, where there's these little crystal ball things, and there's like 5 per level. And if you break one open, then you get a gem and you get a bunch of money. Yeah. If you don't break it open, you just walk past it, it's a checkpoint. Yeah. So it's kind of up to you whether you want to get the reward or keep going. And if you're like, okay, this is the first one, I'll break it, get the money. But the second one, I know there's a challenge coming up, so I'll not do it. But then I'll break the third one. It's like it becomes this meta game of itself where you're thinking about like, do I want the reward now or do I want to just press my luck or whatever? And it's like it's really cool to me because I didn't get it for a second. I was like, there was a level where I just want to hit everything and get all the fucking gems and shit. So it's like when I broke it and saw the gem, I was like, cool. I guess I'm just gonna keep doing this, not realizing those are checkpoints because they don't really explain it.
No, they show it to you. They graphically show it to you, like when you die, like and you see the X's over the checkpoints. So that's when you realize.
The thing is, then I kept fucking dying at like the end of a level. I'm like, God damn, I'm playing this level over and over, and that was the point where I'm like, this reminds me of the old school games I didn't like because I don't want to have to do all the challenges I already did. Like I know I can do this. Let me just do the part I can't do. And I just kept seeing the X's. I'm like, how come the last level I was doing there was checkpoints? What the fuck am I doing wrong? So then I tried again, and I realized, oh shit, if I run past it, it lights up. I'm like. That's good fucking game design.
Well done.
Yeah, it was when I played New Game Plus, it was when the game really got much more difficult because the game, you can play a game like this with your own rules. It's like playing Mega Man and not using any special weapons. Like you can make the game harder, and people do that. It's called arm cannon dueling. But like there's always health before each boss. There's always. Like there's ways to spike the game to make it much easier. You can just save money and buy your health and have like stacked health bar and stuff like that.
Because you can go back to levels, right?
Yeah, you can go back to levels.
So if you know a level really well, break every checkpoint, beat it, break every
Yeah, exactly. And so there's ways to just farm money and stuff like that. And that's what I think that makes the game easier. And that's why I was a little disappointed. That was like my one disappointing thing with it when I first played it and I beat it. And I was like, this game is a lot of fun, but like this isn't hard. And it is a relative thing, like based on what you're experiencing. But I expected something that was a little more hardcore. I think that New Game Plus for those people with those kind of sensibilities is more that there's one checkpoint per stage and there's no health anywhere. Like anytime there's a health, like in the regular game, there's a bomb there when you play in a New Game Plus.
Oh, really?
So you can never hear this stuff. And it reminded me more, I just did a long playthrough, a Let's Play of Castlevania 3, which depending on when we post it may or may not be up by the time you see this. And I played the game for, I don't know, like 45 minutes or whatever. And it was reminding me of like, you were talking about going through a stage and then dying and having to go back. Part of the reason that was so alluring to me as a kid was, it wasn't about just getting through the stage. It was about getting through the stage with enough health to beat the boss. Mm-hmm. Like if you stumbled with no lives to a boss late in Castlevania 3 with 1 health bar left, you're fucked. Mm-hmm. It's over. You might as well just kill yourself and go back to the beginning. It was about that feeling of getting to the boss and being like, I can actually do this.
Yeah.
And then you die, and then you do it again, and you're like, all right, I really can do this now. I like that kind of challenge.
Well, there's also, in addition to the challenge, there's something to be said about if you're going to have to replay a level over and over and over, that level needs to be fun. that means each section, I keep saying room, but like each screen needs to have fresh ideas and something that's going to keep you engaged. And when you have to replay it over and over, it really forces you to kind of look for the secrets and think about different ways to go about it. And it's like, it makes you think about the game instead of just rushing through it. And like, I feel like a lot of the modern Mario 2D games, it is just kind of like, I know how to play Mario, so I'm just going to run and jump and jump and jump and jump, and I beat the game. And it's like, that's why you don't remember it. But it's like, so if you were to ask me, what's your favorite level in any of the new Super Mario Bros. Games, I'd have no answer for you. Like, I have no fucking idea. If you ask me Mario 1, Mario 2, Mario 3, Mario World, any of those, I'd be like, oh, I have a bunch of answers. Because back then, they were designed more around this idea of learning the secrets and like finding all this stuff. And Shovel Knight's doing that for me, for sure, where it's like I'm getting intimately familiar with the levels, and it's awesome.
The exciting thing about what Yacht Club did with Shovel Knight is this is their first game. And they have experience. A lot of those guys come from Way Forward. Way Forward, of course, is a very well-respected studio with retro gamers like me because they make great retro games. But this is their first game. This is their Mega Man 1.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And they're inevitably going to make another Shovel Knight game, right? And that's going to be their Shovel Knight 2, their Mega Man 2.
Yeah.
And it's going to be, like, to me, the original Mega Man's a great game. It's also by far the worst of all the classic Mega Man games. By far. Like, not even close. The worst one. And I'm excited for them to go back to this and be like, this is... Now we have time. Now we have money and means. We don't have to rush. There's no rush. We have our engine. We have all these kinds of things. And this is the game we really want to make. And I Shovel Knight 2, whenever that comes out, if it comes out, oh my God. Mm-hmm. That's going to be the fucking game right there. And one of the things I talked to those guys a lot, and I was just like, one of the cool things I hope they do is a Robot Master style creation contest, because for Mega Man 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, or I guess through 8, 9, and 10, they didn't do this. All of those robots were designed by players. None of them were designed by Inafune in this team. Any of them. They just redrew them to make them look like his style. But those are all created by people.
That's awesome.
So at the end of a Mega Man game, it'll have like each boss in the name, and it's a Japanese name typically, except for 2 of them were made by Westerners in Mega Man 6. And I always thought, I was like, oh, it's the designer or whatever. No, it's a fucking kid, an 18-year-old, a 16-year-old kid, a 20-year-old guy in Japan who made that.
Yeah.
And I was like, you should do that for Shovel Knight 2.
That's
and
awesome.
I think that maybe they'll consider doing that.
Retweet at Yacht Club Games. Let them know.
I think that would be so cool. Is like, let people design the 8 new knights.
Yeah.
Just like they designed Quick Man and Heat Man and Bubble Man and all those characters in Mega Man 2.
Dude, the knights are so awesome though. Like, they're really cool and impressive. And the animation on them, like, holy shit, Spectre Knight spinning around the fucking scythe and shit. I'm like, damn. Like, it's those moments that I'm like, this is not an 8-bit game. You know what I mean? Like, this 8-bit games didn't have animation like that. And that's where I think Shovel Knight succeeds the most is it has the feel of the old games and it has all the good parts, but it is a modern game completely. And that's awesome.
Its modernity, I think, is most seen in its lack of difficulty. And that was but yeah, there are tips and tricks. Like apparently the game's audio, for instance, would work on an NES. So there are certain things like the game wouldn't run on an NES, but the audio, for instance, was programmed through the same chipset that NES games were made. So like there's a lot of orthodoxy with the way they made the game, which I think is pretty cool. And I think that they have just an insane amount of talent. Like I know them and I'm proud of them and what they've accomplished with this game. They speak to people like me and like you. And I think that they were astounded by their success, and they're just going to keep having success. Shovel Knight is fucking awesome. It was the best game of last year. That's why everyone always busts my balls like, you hate Wii U. Like, a Wii U game was my game of the year last year. So, like, I loved Shovel Knight. And I think it's right at home on Vita and PS4. I recommend people play it. It's on Xbox One as well. And we'll see. That's all I'm saying is that that's what's exciting about this game is actually what they're going to be able to do next. And I hope that they don't do something else. I hope that they continue with Shovel Knight in that universe. And yeah, I love King Knight, and my favorite's Tinker Knight, who I don't think you've fought yet. Tinker Knight is awesome. He's a little tiny knight. And there's actually a great scene at the end that I can't wait for you to see too. Like with all of them.
Oh, I'm excited.
And I won't spoil it for you, but it should be a poster. Like you'll know exactly the picture. You'll know exactly what I'm talking about when you see it. You'll probably see it on the plane.
I'm fucking excited,
tomorrow.
man.
Yeah.
This is great. All right, guys. Second topic for today. You actually brought this up to me, so you might be able to explain a little bit better. The idea is unique games. Go for it.
Yeah, so we were today there was a game. You're gonna have to help me what it's called. Perception?
No, it's something like that, right? Or is it? I backed it. I mean, let me check my tweets.
There's a game that was made by ex-BioShock developers. Obviously, Irrational is no more, and those guys got laid off. Irrational is Boston-based, so a lot of these guys stayed in Boston, and created
No,
a
you're
new
right.
studio.
Perception. Sorry,
Yeah.
by Deep End Games.
Deep End Games is the new studio, and the game is called Perception. And it's a game that seems to be inspired a great deal by Gone Home, which is a game we very much love, which is a more explorative, narrative-based game. But in this game, you play as a blind woman. And what's interesting is that you have no tools at your disposal except for like some sort of echolocating kind of thing and like a smartphone and stuff like that, but you can't really see. And we were seeing the trailer. The game looks beautiful. I'm not quite entirely sure like what the perspective of your character is going to be, if she's like truly blind. In other words, if the screen would be black or whatever.
That's the perception.
Yeah.
Or that's how it is. I mean, if you've seen Daredevil Netflix, when they go into his field of view, that's what it looks like, and that's what they're talking about. Is like by using your phone or throwing things in the room, you get to see the sound waves echo off stuff, come back to you. You see what it is basically, right? But then there's this monster around the house too that you're trying to avoid. So the question becomes, do I throw this vase down the end of the hall to see the entire hall, or will that alert the person or the monster to where I am and stuff like that? And you have to hide. And
Good Lord.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Wow.
Yeah, and so it brought up like it's a brilliant idea. It's a game that it's the type of game that I've never heard of before. I've never heard of a game like this.
Yeah.
And it reminds me of other really unique, like Sound Shapes, for instance, which was a really fucking, speaking of Vita games, like a really, really, really unique game where you're platforming but you're making music as you go, and like the decisions you make and the things you collect like make the music more robust or less robust. Like, for all the games we like, we were talking about Wolfenstein and how great of a shooter that is. Shovel Knight, which is a very it's a fun game. It's a very derivative game.
Which are open world RPG.
Yeah, exactly. Like these games are unique, and they resonate with me more.
Yeah.
It's the same thing with Gone Home. Like
Yeah.
some people give Gone Home shit. I don't think they know what they're talking about. Like I think Gone Home was extraordinary, in its simplicity, but also in its resonance, its emotional resonance, and stuff like that.
Another ex-BioShock guys.
So, yeah, I mean, it seems like a lot of people have learned a great deal from Ken Levine.
Yeah, go figure.
Yeah, you just kind of hear. I mean, I've talked to Walt Williams a lot in the past. Walt Williams wrote Spec Ops: The Line. He's a prolific games writer, and he talked about how much he told me something along the lines of, you come onto a game and you learn something about it, but you also have to help it. And when he was on BioShock, he's like, this game didn't need me at all.
Yeah,
all I did was learn from the master.
That's fucking awesome.
Yeah.
And then he wrote Spec Ops. And BioShock's, of course, one of the great games of all time. So yeah, I just wanted to bring up some unique games, like games that you've never, that are different. You can never make another Sound Shapes. You can make a sequel to it, but there can never be another Sound
And there
Shapes
can
like
be
game.
games inspired by Sound Shapes and stuff. That's what you're talking about. That's what's so interesting about right now. What I always talk about is the fact that I think it's the best time to be a video game connoisseur or player or whatever you want to call us. You know what I mean? In the way that, and I've used this analogy before, the silly putty thing, right? When games start, they're very simple. We know what that is. And then people start stretching it out in all these different directions. And now there's a game for every mood and everything you're in, right? And that's what's awesome, is that every day now a new Kickstarter pops up for something. In the same vein of that, right, is that apartment game, A Separated Place, that we did a Let's Play for, right? Like, I immediately went and gave them $80 on Kickstarter. I'm like, I love your idea here of this. Again, it's a narrative-driven game. It starts that the first story we played was you're in an apartment dealing with, your girlfriend who left you, and you're an artist, so you find the clues around there and then draw your story. But then you leave the building and go next door, and this woman's a writer, and she's writing while you're writing her, not only writing her messages in the book, you're responding to your husband and then texting your lover, it seems like. And it's like all these amazing, like, holy shit. And for me right now, when I think of unique games, that's what I think of. I think of these games that have the power to put me in someone else's shoes in a way I would have never been able to. And like, don't get me wrong, books do that, documentaries, news stories even, you know what I mean? But to sit there and be controlling what's happening and understanding. I go back to Coming Out Simulator 2. That was a game I played that it was like super simple flash-based web thing. You jump onto a student project or whatever, right? And the guy opens it with like, this is my story of how it went. Obviously there's choices here, so it's not like you're getting variables that didn't happen in mine, but this is all very true to what happens. You go through and you play it, and it's just like the weight of being gay and not being able to tell your parents, trying to tell your parents, and them immediately rejecting it, and like going back and forth with your boyfriend. It's just like, holy shit, you know what I mean? These are experiences I wouldn't have gotten. And again, in a very similar vein, Gone Home, but in a completely different way. And the fact that Coming Out Simulator was me choosing options off of a screen. It kind of looks like a cell phone the entire time. Whereas Gone Home was, I'm this woman's sister, right? And I've come home, and what the fuck's going on? And that game for me will always be special, just in the way of, I went into it and somehow was able to keep my knowledge of it to nothing. You know what I mean? Got in there, played it, and thought I was playing a horror game. And then I kept getting, okay, what's that? And then you're like, oh, this is a cool story, whatever. Sam Milani's fine, but I need to worry about that. And then slowly, it catches up of like, is this the game? It's them. This is their holy shit. And then at the end, the tears back for a completely different reason. You know what I mean? It was like, I finished that game, and I always say, took off my headset and I went into the bedroom and I hugged Christine, right? Because it was just, again, so bittersweet. It was so amazing. And that's one of those experiences that changed me.
Well, I think that's something that makes games so unique is when you don't know about it and it's a new experience that you can't even imagine. Because once you kind of have an idea of what it is, it changes it, you know? And I feel like when you say, what's the most unique game? Like a couple's pop into my head. Journey's one of them. Yeah. But I feel like Journey, I didn't have that connection with in the same way because I knew about it. People were like, oh, you should play this. This is a thing. So my answer would be Flower before Journey. Yeah. Flower, it was more similar to Gone Home for me, where it's like, I weirdly like that game. Like, I really enjoy it. And I remember first hearing about it, and I was like, that's really fucking weird. Like, why would anyone like that? Why would I want to play it? And then I watched a trailer of it, and I was like, there's something about this, like the way that like it has a custom score they made just for it, and like the music kind of changes depending on what you're doing and stuff. I'm like, man, there's a lot of this looks like a tech demo, but it looks like a cool, engaging tech demo. I want to try it. So I just bought it, downloaded it, and then as I was playing it in the first level, you're just kind of flying around, and like you're learning the mechanics. 'Cause when you first look at it, it doesn't look like a game.
Yeah, you're like, what is interactive screensaver? Like, what am I
exactly.
doing? Yeah.
And that's kind of what sold it to me, was the idea of it being an interactive screensaver. I'm like, that's fucking cool. I used to love screensavers. You know, it's like, I like that idea. And then, but playing it, like you start going through and then you start getting in the flow of it. And like, that's something about video games that I think is unique to gaming, is when you're in the zone. Right. You know? Right. Like when you're playing Guitar Hero and you're not even fucking looking anymore. You're just kind of like, holy shit, this is just happening.
I'm doing it.
Yeah. And Flower had a lot of those moments for me where you kind of get in the zone, and it's like it's a motion control game.
Yeah.
But
unfortunately,
but
not on your PlayStation Vita anymore.
Huh?
It's not motion control on your PlayStation Vita anymore.
Oh yeah. Is it? You can control it with analog sticks on the Vita?
Yeah.
Holy shit!
What I always wanted in that
right?
game.
Or am I wrong about that?
Yeah. But there was something about it though that it didn't feel wrong to me playing on the PS3. Like I would have rather used the analog sticks for sure. But as I was doing it, I was like, okay, man, this is going, and this is cool. And I got into it, and when you start going through the valleys and stuff, and you start going really fast. I remember really kind of getting into it and mastering the subtle movements of the controller. And then you get to the second level, and it's like a little darker. It's not as colorful and pretty. Then you get to the third level, and it's really dark. Then you get to the fourth level, and it's like, oh shit, things are really fucked up.
Yeah.
As you go through that game, I remember constantly being like, why am I still playing this? Like, there's no reason for me to be still playing this. Besides everything I just said, besides the fact that this is a weird experience, the gameplay's not that fun. There's not that much going on, but it's so subtle that it's like, that is what made it unique to me. And by the end of it, I'm like, holy crap, that was a fucking awesome game.
Right? Yeah.
And I think that is the unique experience.
Flower is a great game. Journey to me was a game where people kept telling me to play. I had a different experience from you because I knew what it was, and people kept telling me to play. And I'm like, I'll get to it. When we nominated for Game of the Year at IGN, I was like, okay, like I'm gonna play it one day, and it was so incredible that I refused to ever play it again. I was like, I'm never playing this game again. Like that's like my time and place with that game. It made me cry at the end. I have no idea why. And that was and the Unfinished Swan was a very similar game where that's a game I think more along the lines of like it will be ruined for you if you actually know what it is and like what happens in the game. We know the black and white kind of ball throwing mechanic, but the game changes radically. And so. You know, there are unique games like that. I was just going to say, too, Until Dawn was the other game that I brought up when we were discussing topics, because Until Dawn is another totally fucking unique game. And whether or not Until Dawn is the PlayStation 4 exclusive, comes out August 25th, it's a teen horror movie. And, like, but you play it. And
you make choices in it. Yeah,
wait, was that the one with
Hayden Panettiere.
Yeah.
And it looks awesome. Yeah. Like, and I played it extensively, and I'm excited about that. It's another game where it's like, this is new. This is unique. Now, new and unique doesn't always mean it's going to be good, but I personally feel like if you've not played something like this, like a game like Game X, it's more likely than not that it's going to be more resonant with you than if you've played a million games like it. So, like, when there's a game, I like what I like. I like comfortable games. I like shooters, and I like role-playing games and all these kinds of things. But every once in a while, there's room and necessity for playing a game like Journey, like the Unfinished Swan, games that you might not ever go back to, but you know, or this game, Perception, like it's awesome. You know, this is so fantastic. I agree that we live in a really fantastic time right now to play games.
There are motion controls in Flower, sorry, on Vita. My bad.
Oh, there are?
Yeah.
Can you play with sticks?
It doesn't look like it.
I was gonna say they seem to be very They could have. First of all,
Sorry,
Sony published that game. They could have patched it for free.
Yeah.
And at any time they wanted, and they clearly didn't because they didn't want to. So it's they could have and they should have,
Yeah.
but they didn't because I think
mean,
that was the experience.
I do. Yeah, it was an experience game, and I think that goes a long way. And it's like, I don't know if I would have stuck with it if it was analog sticks. And like that's weird for me to say because it's like even though that was something I didn't enjoy about it, it's like it was part of it.
Right.
And it's again, I don't know why I played that game until the end, but then it's like I was, and there was something keeping me doing it. So I feel like Journey in a lot of ways is the natural progression of Flower, where it makes a lot more sense.
You see it from Flow to Flower to Journey, like their entire lineage.
See, Flow never clicked with me.
No, me neither. But it was one of those games of this is different and weird, and it seems cool, and you play it, and it was like, I played 15, 20, 30 minutes of it. I don't need it anymore. You know what I mean? Yeah.
That is a very it's like a Flash game. Yeah. And it was a Flash game.
Yeah.
Cloud was that was their first game, and that was a Flash game too. But and now we don't know what the hell they're going to do next. But we had Genova Chen on at GDC. It was pretty interesting, very smart
Doesn't
guy.
sound like it's crushing his soul at all. Trying to
no, definitely not.
Journey.
Definitely not. Yeah, I think that I like the games that are derivative. I like games that are some of the same things that we. It's like putting on like your comfortable sweatpants or something. Like it just feels right, and you have to do it every once in a while. But sometimes you have to play and try these different kinds of games, and so this game Perception is really exciting. There's other games that are coming up. I'm excited about Mighty Number 9 because it sounds like it's not quite as much like Mega Man as I think people think it is, but it's still Mega Man, and I'm excited about that. But for every game like that, I'm excited about something else that's totally whacked out and different. And we can talk about games like iDarb or
Three-Fourths Home.
Rocket League, like games that are just like fucking bizarre that are fun.
Yeah. That's what's so exciting right now is that it feels like, we had the glut when PlayStation 1 was happening of like anything can happen. It's so easy to make games for this system, right? Because of CD-ROMs.
Yeah.
And then that went away. And now that the indies and digital distribution are here, we're back to it. Of just like, go do whatever. You have a team.
I feel like the PS2 era
3, whatever,
was like really creative. Like there was a ton of just really unique games then too.
Yeah.
You just saying this though, it reminded me, this is like, that's not the most unique game by any stretch of the imagination, but it has unique elements. But Splatoon.
Splatoon's very unique.
That we played. We did a let's play out of it. That should be a lot. Yes, exactly. And man, playing that game, it was interesting because we played it since yesterday. I couldn't stop thinking about it.
Really?
Yeah, I was like, I had fun doing that. So I don't know. I might need to get on this. I might be the fucking Splatoon's biggest fan.
Whoa!
Gettys.
We've given a lot of recommendations for games that people can play. Obviously, that game company stuff. One of the most unique games that floored me and it will always be one of my favorites. I have a huge thing of it in my room, a huge box of it in my room, is Catherine. And I think that Catherine is still one of the most special games on PlayStation 3, one of my favorite games maybe of all time. I think it was in my top 25 list when I did it at IGN. It's fucked up, and it's like a dating sim meets Qbert, kind of. Yeah. And it's awesome. That game is awesome. And that was Persona Team's game in between Persona 4 and Persona 5, and they were just kind of taking a break.
Yeah, great.
And if that's any indication of what that team can do, there's reason to be excited about Persona 5. More than one reason, of course. But Catherine, I recommend. It's an easy game to get for people now.
That's a good example, though. That's a very unique game. Yeah. All right, guys. Topic 3 is 2 things in one.
Oh, my God.
Racing games and fighting games.
Yeah.
Now, the topic here is I know that those are not either or any of our favorite genres.
Sure.
But it's more about wanting to know what your positive memories are about them or what your thoughts are on them in general, and if there's anything they could do to win you back. The reason we're discussing this is Need for Speed, just the reboot or whatever it is, refresh, whatever the hell they're going to call it. We saw a trailer for that. Also, we're getting a little bit more Street Fighter 5 stuff coming out, and people are getting really excited about that.
Ultra just released too for Street Fighter 4
Ultra just released, yeah, and you guys played that for a little bit. I want to know what kind of your thoughts on it, because for me, when Street Fighter 4 was announced, I remember being excited. And it was like, I've been out of that forever. Not that I was ever... I'm not one of those like fighting game fucking dudes, right? But everyone has the memories of Street Fighter 2 and of, 90s kind of just fighting games. Or Marvel vs. Capcom or whatever it was, right? Or fucking, I don't know.
Mortal Kombat, come on.
Oh, yeah, okay. I thought you were going for some DC bullshit.
I do remember Justice League Task Force. You remember that? That blew my mind.
No,
the Justice League, the entire Justice League in a video game? Who would have thunk? They're all fighting each other? Fucking dynamite. I need to buy that, actually, because I got this goddamn Retron thing floating around the house.
So, you think about all those things. I remember when Street Fighter 4 was announced, I was like, oh shit, it's happening. Because Street Fighter 3, beautiful game to look at. Like, the sprite work on that is fucking awesome, and like people love that game.
Yeah.
then when 4 was announced, it was like, oh shit, we're getting a next gen Street Fighter. And that was one of those games where it's like now it's like you get Street Fighter every fucking 3 months, even if it's just an upgraded version of it.
Re-release.
Yeah, but when that game was announced, it was a big deal because there hadn't been a Street Fighter for years. So when 5 was announced so soon after 4, I think a lot of people were just kind of like, oh shit, okay, I guess.
Sure.
And then you see the trailer of it and you're like,
It looks the same.
is this 4?
But now we can go through walls.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You
It
know,
looks cool. I like those extra long stages. I thought that was kind of a nice touch.
So we're getting that stuff, and it's like we see the trailer, and M. Bison was just announced as a character in it, and it's like,
Shocking.
yeah, I know. And it, as an outsider to the Street Fighter world, I'm really starting to think, like, what does this game need to be? Because is it just going to be the same characters again? You know, because like that's what they.
I think they have to just pick and choose. Like I think that Street Fighter as far as fighting games is always near and dear to my heart. And we were talking during the Ultra Street Fighter 4 Let's Play that we did for PS4. Like I grew up playing Street Fighter, and I think I'm still pretty competent at it. Like I like it. I like the series a lot. But you picked up characters along the way that you probably don't really need. Like say Dudley, for instance. And you might be able to get rid of some of these characters and then bring in other so in other words, you have to have the 8 core characters and then the 4 boss characters. Those are always going to be in the game, right? So that's
see,
Ken and Ryu and Block,
though.
but we don't know if they're going to be.
Well, what I'm saying is like, so Street Fighter 2, like that is what kind of defined what those 8 are plus 4. You know, those are the characters, and then 3 was like, no.
Well, that's why.
But
But so I was talking to people about this afterwards too, because I said in the Let's Play, like I remember Third Strike not being well received, and it wasn't. I think the fighting game community liked it. It was a very technical fighter.
They
It's a
fucking
pretty game too. Like you said, the pixel work and stuff in the game is great. But that was a different game that I think Street Fighter fell off for a while, and then there were the alpha games, obviously concurrent and a little bit before as well. But those, like, Ryu, E Honda, Guile, Chun-Li, Zangief, Dalsum, all these characters. Then obviously Vega and Balrog and Sagat and Bison, like they have to be in the game, right? Like those are the core characters. And then you started to pick up, what was it, Super Street Fighter. That's when you picked up Cammy and DJ and T-Hawk.
Yeah.
And there was one more.
Cammy, DJ, T-Hawk, and Fei Long.
Fei Long, right. And then, so those, with the exception of Cammy, you can get rid of all of those characters. I don't think anyone, cares about any of those characters.
But see, that's the thing.
And then you have the
that's not
alpha
true.
characters like Rolento and all. I just think you have to be a little more thoughtful and more careful and, a little more selective about the characters that you select in these games. And or you can have, a robust Marvel vs. Capcom fucking, roster with 70 players on it. And I think that's totally fine, too. But then you have balancing issues that you're never going to be able to repair. The bigger thing about fighting games to me is that, and we talked about this on the Street Fighter thing, is that I didn't realize that I wasn't as good at Street Fighter as I thought I was until I worked at IGN. Because I used to wreck people in Street Fighter, in college and in high school and whatever, and when I was younger. And one of my greatest memories is my brother buying that Super Nintendo cartridge of Street Fighter 2, the original Street Fighter 2, which cost him a fucking fortune. And then we got Turbo, and then we got Super, and all these kinds, and I just loved these games. And then I got really into the alpha games on PS1. But I fell out of it because, I fell out of it when I became an adult, really, or when I moved out here, because I was just like, I don't have the time to put in to study these games the way that you need to study them to play them properly. If you play King of Fighters or something like that, that takes, or you play BlazBlue, those games take fucking study, man. You can't just jump into those games and play them. Mortal Kombat I didn't like because I think it's stiff as shit, and I think it's kind of corny too. But Street Fighter is the perfect world, and they treat it with care. That's what I liked about when Street Fighter 4 came out in 2009. I really respected it. It was a beautiful game, and Street Fighter fans and fighting game fans and Evo guys took to it.
Yeah.
And that's some of the funnest stuff to watch at Evo. When I watched Evo last year, the Street Fighter tournament was fucking insane. It was awesome. So I think Street Fighter 5 could be more of the same. Because I think when they went off the deep end with Street Fighter 3 for some people, or their Third Strike or whatever, it didn't resonate with a large group of audience. Even if the fighting game community took to it, that's not going to sustain it.
Yeah.
So,
and I think 4 was the answer to that. 4 completely, I mean, in a lot of ways, was just 2 again. At least character-wise, right? The build-up to it was just announcing each fucking character until you had them all. And then with a couple new characters like Dudley. And, Dudley's 3, right?
Yeah,
Who's the fat dude that they added in 4?
Yeah, that's, shit, I can't remember his name.
In the yellow thing.
Yeah, with the ponytail.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Whatever the hell his name is. I don't know. But
that's a good hint. Huh? Is it Bob? No, not Bob.
No.
Isn't Bob a character from Tekken?
Yeah, I don't fucking know. Whatever this dude's name is.
Tekken's a better game than Street Fighter?
Kevin really likes Tekken, but anyways.
All right, Kevin.
Yeah, it's interesting to me, and to see these trailers and see Chun-Li and Ryu and freaking Bison's okay, cool, great. And the art style is the thing that turns me off the most. because I mean maybe it's just because I'm me, but I want the freaking sprites.
Yeah, you're just not going to get
I'm
them.
never going to get it, and I know that.
Pixel work. This was an interesting insight I got talking to Iga. And that actually there was a huge blog written by a famous artist in this industry. I don't know who he is, but he worked on a lot of games and was talking about this. But Iga was talking about how like Bloodstained, his game that he's kickstarting, the Castlevania successor, is not sprite based, and his whole argument was like, I know that you guys, because I was disappointed when I heard that. I was like, that sucks. Like, I want sprite work, I want dot art, and his whole thing was like, the people that can do this are few and far between now because no one needs to do it anymore, and it's really expensive and really hard. So like they're just like we can just make 3D models and flatten it in 2.5D plane and be fine. And that's what they've done in Street Fighter. They're just making, beautiful models that look great. And I want the sprite art and stuff too, but it's just like the pixel art. It's not going to happen. Like it's so rare. That's why Shovel Knight, which we talked about in the last segment, is so awesome because that is pixel art. Mm-hmm. But it's not practical because then you have to animate it.
Yeah.
And it's just. That's a big to do, man. So like they can just make these character models, and it's just easier. I think Street Fighter V will come out in 10 years. They had to fucking do beautiful PS4 style pixel art for the for whatever 40 characters in the game.
Then you look at things like BlazBlue and stuff, and it's like those are fucking amazing looking.
Yeah, but Arc System might just have Arc System Works makes those games, and they might just have a different allotment of their internal resources to be able to do those games. I don't disagree. I think a lot of those games are beautiful that are still. Pixel art, but it's just I feel like that style of art unfortunately is just expensive and hard to do, and it's prohibitive, I think, actually, for a lot of companies to do it. Arc System probably just the same people have been working on these games and they just do it, but it's different.
Another thing,
and are all
too,
BlazBlue games pixel,
aren't they? Pretty sure.
I don't know.
I mean, I'm not the right person to ask about this, but I'm pretty sure
they moved away from it.
And like Guilty Gear and all that stuff. Like, I mean, those games are fucking so nice looking.
Yeah, I could have sworn they moved away from it, but maybe not. I haven't looked at them in a long time. Pretty games.
Yeah.
But yeah, so fight. I have a deep respect for the fighting game community and what they do and how they play, because it reminds me a great deal of my love of chess and how it's not something you sit down at a chessboard and I'm going to kill you if you don't play chess. I'm going to kill you. Like I need someone that has studied as much as I have, that put the time and the effort in, and these guys do that. They study their moves and they play. There are different characters. I could do the same opening on a chessboard. I can do or I can do the Sicilian defense or whatever, and someone might do the same thing, but they'll play it differently from there. 5 moves ahead, the board looks totally different. So a player that uses Chun-Li will play the player with a different complexion than someone else. There's layers upon it. It's like Inception. Yeah. There's like layers and layers and layers and layers and layers of fighting game community. I have such a deep and unabiding respect for the way they play.
Yeah, I mean, this is like a topic for another time, and I don't want to get too far into it, but Smash Brothers, right, is like the thing of, is it a fighting game, is it not, whatever. Doesn't matter. Like, to me, it is my fighting game. It's the closest thing I can get into as a fighting game.
Sure.
And even that, what you just said is true for that. Like if I play Marth and someone else plays Marth, 2 very different Marths, and it's like the way that we go about it. It's like you can't just prepare against a Marth because 2 people are going to do it differently. And even one person can play the same character in different ways depending on their opponent. And I think the pro Street Fighter guys, when you watch them play, you can see them doing it. You can see what they're doing being different based on who they're facing and stuff. And it's fucking crazy, and I could never invest that much time into anything.
That's what I'm saying. Like when you play a MOBA, you play a MOBA. When you play EVE Online, you play EVE Online. When you play Street Fighter 4, I feel like that's what you play.
Yeah.
And I just don't want to play games like that. So like when we did our also Street Fighter 4 Let's Play, like I played as Ken my whole life, and I know how to play as Ken. And I know some people think it's cheap to play as Ken or Ryu because like they just they feel the same. But that's how I play, and I think I'm pretty good at playing as them. But I would never assume that I could play someone who knows how to play, like really know how to play Vince, really knows how to play Street Fighter, and he'd fucking wreck me. Like it wouldn't even be, he plays any character and kill me. It was the same thing we proved, with Mark Ryan, where we played 100 matches of Marvel vs. Capcom 2, and I lost all 100 of them. And I started at 50 in, I was picking his characters.
Yeah.
Because there's just a different understanding he has for the game and the way the game plays and the rhythm of the game. That's the thing that I like that you brought these 2 things up with racing and fighting games, because I feel like those are the 2 genres that every genre has a hardcore audience, but those are the 2 genres that have communities of people that play racing games. They play fighting games. That's what they play. They don't, they might dabble with other things, but like I play role-playing games, and I'm like, I'm not a role-playing game player. Yeah. Like a guy that played Drive Club and Project Cars and The Crew, that's a fucking racing fan.
And has the wheel and has the, sliding
well,
TV.
That is why I brought them up together, because I know that the 3 of us are not fans of those 2 genres.
What about the cart? We love the cart.
Yeah, but whatever. But they both do have very similar things between them, where there are the hardcore people that buy
the fight sticks
or the wheels.
Yeah.
And then there's the technical players for both of them, like the people that love Gran Turismo and Forza and all that stuff to get super into it. But that both genres have the same thing where they are super accessible to people that just want to button mash and play. You know, anyone can pick up a racing game and understand it. Anyone can pick up a fighting game and understand it. But you're not going to be good. But it's still going to be fun.
Sure.
You know what I mean? On some level. And I think it's really unique maybe to those two genres. There may be a couple others that you can kind of fit in there. But there's that. So moving on to the racing side of things a bit. So Need for Speed. Did you guys see the trailer for the new one?
Isn't it just slow pans on the car? Or is there a full trailer out? We did it
Yeah,
the
the
day
car,
of the
like, zooms
reveal.
by.
Yeah, on Colin and Greg Live, we went through and they were like, stay tuned for E3, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we saw that one.
Do you guys
Underground
have
3.
any... Yes. Do you guys have any, like, Need for Speed thoughts in general?
Yeah, I love Need for Speed on PS1. That was like before I would ever even think of it when I was younger. I didn't have a car and stuff. My dad was really into cars. The Need for Speed series was 1, 2, and 3. I think on PS1 were excellent games, and I played all of them and had all of them up to Need for Speed Hot Pursuit 2, which was ironically the last racing game I ever bought and the first strategy guide I ever wrote for IGN.
Oh wow!
I loved those games. I thought Need for Speed, at least in the beginning, was a pretty nice melding of what Gran Turismo was doing really well with a more arcadey feel of like San Francisco Rush or something. Not obviously that out of control. But I don't like the sim racers, so like when I play Gran Turismo, I'm fucking awful at it. I don't want to play a game where you have to, shift and fucking brake.
Yeah.
I don't want to brake. Like I'm going. And I thought Need for Speed was like, unless you played like the really like advanced courses, was a game that fit that style. But since then, I don't think I've even really touched a racing game for much. I remember when Forza came to Xbox One, when we had it early at IGN, I played that. I think that was the last racing game I played.
What about Burnout? Did you ever do Burnout? Burnout Paradise?
No.
That was the rare one that got me.
Yeah.
And just because it didn't feel like a racing game. It was an open world car game and go do quests and break down billboards. And eventually the Ecto 1 DLC came and all this other stuff. It was like, oh, this is cool. I'm doing all these different things. For me, that's always the hook with the racing games. That it needs to have something other than racing. Gran Turismo puts me to sleep. You know what I mean? But like Burnout did great. Need for Speed Most Wanted on Vita was fun. And I got to do that. Kart racers. I feel like if I'm a racing anything, I'm a kart racer. Kart racing games get me super excited.
Yeah.
But they're different, obviously.
Yeah, exactly.
But I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Go for it.
I was just saying, it's ironic that you say like some people are going to take issue with your Gran Turismo comment because I agree with you. I think I can't play Gran Turismo. I don't like it. I think it's
and I'm not
boring.
trying
I
to
think
put you down if
no,
you like
no,
it.
no, no. But there is so much in that game that's not racing
Yeah.
that I think that is actually the
yeah.
allure of the game to a lot of people is like the customization and the unlocking and the realism, like all the real.
But the
licenses and
realism
stuff.
is what pushes me away. I
Yeah,
guess
I
that's
agree.
an easier
I
way to
agree,
say
but
it.
I didn't want to say that.
I need Mod Nation Racers cart, improvement in doing that and getting lost for hours making those cars that I did. You know what I mean? Like that was awesome.
Yeah, Hot Pursuit 2, man. Like that was a
fucking awesome
That was a
game.
fucking
Also,
great game.
Awesome soundtrack.
Yeah.
Hot action cop. All
Oh
over
my
that
God,
bad boy.
fever for the flavor,
Yeah.
man. Good lord. But so that is kind of an era of racing games that I think is gone now, and that's why seeing this be like, oh hey, it's Underground 3, that excites me because it's like I think they've tried a couple things the last couple of years, and they've drove that into the ground. And they've tried a bunch of different stuff where they went a little more sim, and then they went a little too arcade. They kind of lost that balance. But Underground, Need for Speed Underground, I think Hot Pursuit 2 is a better game overall. But Underground, for people that are anywhere near my age, whether you like racing games or not, I think Need for Speed Underground, this is such a big statement that I'm going to regret saying, but it reminds me kind of the Street Fighter 2 of that type of Need for Speed type games, where it's like that's the one that everyone loved and everyone plays and everyone has the memories of, because it was the perfect melding of culture and game where everyone owned that game. Everyone that had PS2 freaking had that game, and everyone had the soundtrack on their iPods, and everyone loved it. And a lot of it has to do with Fast and Furious, because that was right when that series was getting big, and when Fast and Furious 1 and 2 were out, and like every fucking kid in middle school, that's all they wanted to do was freaking have NOS in their car and have freaking glowing neon lights.
Is that the one where was that the game the guy played in Fast and Furious 1 in his car? Remember when he was at the line, he had a little PS1 hooked up, he was playing some racing game there.
No.
Come on, Mr.
It
Fast
couldn't
and
have been.
Furious.
I
All
mean, well, because the game was clearly based on Fast and Furious.
Okay.
Like, for sure. And customizing your car and like choosing the neon lights and the obnoxious paint jobs and all that stuff.
I got the green glow under my car. A little hot action cop for you.
Okay.
So good. But Need for Speed Underground was a very special game that I'll always remember. And whenever I talk to people, if you're 25 and a gamer, You're gonna know that game. Like it's definitely part of your life. And Underground 2 was cool, but it got a little too open world, and I thought they kind of lost track of what made it special.
Yeah.
I'm excited to see what this does because this might be the first Need for Speed I play since then, really.
Okay.
The one thing I want to ask, and this is more of a question, or it's a half comment, half question. We talk about Smash Brothers with fighting games and how like Smash Brothers is a divisive game with fighting game fans. Like Vince, for instance, our friend at IGN, who's a fighting game expert, like doesn't accept that game at all as a fighting game. And then, but it's at Evo, like Melee's at Evo, right?
Yeah.
And I think actually, not Brawl, but I guess the new one was at Evo last year, right?
The Wii U one.
Yeah. So there's a group of people that are hardcore dedicated to it and play
Yeah.
the game, but it's still not accepted, right? It's still like not a ubiquitously accepted game.
Everyone
like,
knows that's a
like
fighting game.
say Street Fighter, you know, like within fighting game circles. Clearly not, right?
Yeah.
Like, but it's there. And then I'm curious in the racing scene, the way they look at kart racers, specifically Mario Kart. Not even no one cares about Mod Nation, but like specifically like Mario Kart.
I don't think they count them. I think it's a different genre.
Well,
It's a subgenre.
I think it's different. I don't think that and I could be wrong about this, but I don't think that there's a racing game competitive community in the same way that there's a fighting game. Like,
Though there's no Evo, but certainly there's got to be a competitive racing scene.
yeah,
right?
but I mean, there's a competitive anything, but like that whole scene doesn't matter. You know what I mean? Like, it's doesn't matter whether or not they think kart racers. I mean, there's Mario Kart tournaments, but like, who cares?
It's funny.
You know?
I guess my question or the comment is more that it's funny that Nintendo has innovated on these genres and made something that's uniquely theirs. The kart racer, they're not the only ones to do the kart racer, but they
own
the kart racing genre, and they're not the only ones that have done or do a Smash Brothers style game, but they are the ones that own the Smash Brother style game and obviously do it the best. It's just funny that they've made these games that are on the bubble for both of these genres, these hardcore genres that vacillate between acceptance and not acceptance, or like a game that can be competitive or not competitive when you have the hardcore Gran Turismos or the Street Fighters, but then you have these Nintendo. It's just funny that they made both of those games.
Yeah.
That sit on the outside kind of, but everyone kind of loves them.
One foot in the water kind of thing.
Yeah. I don't know, it's just an observation. Very interesting that they've innovated but aren't quite accepted in at least the fighting game community. The racing game community is a little more. I'm curious what the Evo. There's got to be an Evo for racing games, right? Like not Evo called Evo, but there's got to be a racing game. Like racing games, like F1 games and all those are huge in Western Europe.
But
You know,
that's the
like-
thing, isn't it broken down by actual game? Like, I mean, there's, Gran Turismo has this championship, whatever the hell they call that thing when they bring together the best players to play for a while.
Nissan Academy.
Yeah, that's
think
it.
that's what
That's
it's
it.
called.
That's right. Yeah,
Yeah.
nailed it. And then, there is F1 stuff, but I mean, I think it might be that for that, there's just a difference in terms of, like, I'm not a racing fan, I'm a Gran Turismo fan.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's the thing is it's like Evo is unique in the fact that the fighting game community is a fighting game community. It's not just a one game community. I mean, there is a Smash community, there is a Street Fighter community, but it's like Evo is a bigger idea there, you know? And I mean, I don't know if there's like a racing competitive scene in that way.
I'm interested. I'm sure someone will tell us in the comments.
I'm sure they will. But I mean, the fact that we don't know says something though. Like we know about Evo. You know
Sure,
what I
but
mean?
we didn't know about Evo. Well, I mean, Evo's been around for a long time, but Evo didn't. I don't feel like Evo reached mainstream acceptance and coverage until 3 or 4 years ago, maybe. So, like, Evo had existed and people liked it, but
it
like
wasn't on
Evo
the
would have
front
never
page
been on
of
the front page of
IGN.
IGN
Yeah,
in
yeah.
2010.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the
So I'm just saying,
other
like,
side of that though is, I mean, I knew about Evo. How would I have known about Evo?
You're a young kid. You're a young whippersnapper. They were telling
yeah, I
you.
mean,
about it.
Evo.
So, I mean, but obviously, like someone was covering it, telling me about it, like whether it's IGN or like any of the sites I grew
Sure.
up reading. But it's like they didn't tell me about a racing one.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I also just don't think racing. I mean, racing games are big. I think racing games sell way more than fighting games. So that's the other ironic thing is that you would think that like Gran Turismo 5, Gran Turismo 5 is the best-selling PS3 game.
Well, I think
that's unbelievable. Like it's an unbelievable statement.
but we're talking about the competitive nature of it, though. Like, I think that's the difference. And I know racing by default is a competition.
Well, I was
but
just stating more the irony that you would think that with the way these games sell, the way some of these like Need for Speed's been on the decline, but the Crew and all these other games sold. Drive Club even sold really well. So it's like you would just think like Street Fighter 5 is going to come out as a PlayStation 4 console exclusive, but the next Gran Turismo is going to fucking destroy it in sales. But like we don't know what the driving community is doing with this game, even though many millions more are going to be sold of it. But the fighting game community, much more niche, yet much more vocal. Just an observation. Much more vocal, much more well known. Maybe they just do a nice job of talking about, hyping it up and talking about it. I don't know. There's got to be a driving game community out there. Tell me, people.
It's underground. It's underground. That's how you would know. It's not street legal.
Yeah.
In the
I like
comments
that.
below.
All right, guys. Final topic for the day. If you guys have a topic for us, go to the Kind of Funny forums at kindoffunny.com/forums. There's a thread right at the top there for your Gamescast topics. There's a whole bunch of them. Shout out to Lindsay, who's one of the superstars on the forums.
Yeah.
She spells her name with an A. It's Lindsay.
Lindsay. Say what?
But she's fucking awesome, and she like has been super great in the forums, making sure everything is beautiful and organized. And she organized this topic very nicely for me. Sean One Neo says, "Hi guys, can I ask your opinion on the lack of light gun shooters for consoles and what the future holds?"
Oh yeah, this guy talked to me on Twitter about this.
Yeah.
Here's another sub-genre we don't talk about.
Yeah, I mean, peripheral games are just largely dead.
And that's the problem. It's peripherals.
Yeah.
Like, that's why we don't see them. People got burned out with Guitar Hero and all that. And I think, the PS1 era, light gun games were something special because that was the peripheral. Everyone wanted Time Crisis. Everyone wanted Point Blank and all that stuff. And
I even go further back than that, like the Genesis sharpshooter and SNES and
or
all
Duck
that
Hunt.
stuff. Yeah.
Well, SNES's was a failure, but obviously the Super Scope was no one gave a fuck about that thing. Everything was awesome because they used to play outside with it. But then it was a bazooka.
It looked like a real gun.
But some reason I had that. What?
The dog
He
staring
was
at
just having look at
He's
him.
listening. He's intently listening to you.
But yeah, the light guns were like in the Duck Hunt era. Light gun was a gimmick, right? It was a way to like, well, I'm playing. Like I still don't.
This isn't a video game. It's a toy.
Yeah.
It's an entertainment system. It does so much more than
The
games.
PS1 era, I think light guns and Dreamcast, I think had awesome light gun games too, like House of the Dead and all those because. These disc-based games were more graphically robust. They were pretty. You were playing like House of the Dead 2. I remember specifically like that was like a 1-for-1 experience really from the arcade to Dreamcast.
And I think that's the thing is like even from and Dreamcast probably is the perfect example of when it could finally be arcade perfect. Like Dreamcast is the most arcade perfect system ever.
Yeah.
Because it didn't have the same exact chipset or whatever.
Probably. I don't know. I don't
forgot what it was
presume to know
called,
enough about the
Neptune
Dreamcast.
or some shit like that. But
Oh yeah, that was the code name for it, wasn't it? The Dreamcast.
yeah, and I think that was that there
Saturn
was like
and then Neptune.
there was a the board that they used for the arcades was Neptune. That's why a lot of games were ported over. I could be completely wrong about that, but I learned that somewhere. But yeah, there was the arcade in the 90s, like the boom there, like it was all peripheral based. It was all I'm standing on a skateboard, I'm shooting like I'm punching some shit. And it's like when you got to take that experience home, and it's like I don't need to pay a quarter, but I can fucking play it. Come over and play Time Crisis. My God, that's such a important memory for a lot of people. And I just think it doesn't have the same. Those games don't have as much depth as a lot of things.
Exactly,
so it's like,
that's the big thing. And it's just like any other peripheral we talk about. Why I think Morpheus isn't going to succeed. There won't be enough experiences to justify the purchase.
Yeah.
Now you had a shot at it when Wii and PlayStation Move were happening because then you had the light guns there. I remember I played all the way through House of the Dead Overkill. Loved it. Had a great time. It was a funny story. It was fun. I was playing with the Move, getting trophies. It was like, yeah, this is great. All right, cool. But like now that the moves are mothballed away or sold back or where the hell my moves are, like if you put out I don't be down to do that. You know what I mean? Now, granted, again, there's the argument of it's built into the controller, but then we're just getting away from what a light gun is anyway. You know what I mean?
I mean, that's actually really interesting. I remember when the Wii first came out. The question was, "There's a new Duck Hunt. Where's it coming?" And then it never came.
Yeah,
that
is weird.
We kind of got it as like a tech demo in a couple different ways. Like We Play had it, and like we got Link's crossbow training.
Right.
And
I
stuff.
bought Link's crossbow training. That fucking gun that it came with.
Yeah. But it's
hell
like
was
we
I
never
thinking?
got Duck Hunt, and that was such a weird thing. It's like that was such a perfect
no-brainer,
fit.
right?
Yeah, and they just didn't do it. But
That's true. That's a good. I never thought of that.
I don't think we're gonna get a resurgence of light guns ever. But I mean, if there's new Time Crisis that come out, it would pique my interest, but I wouldn't buy it. So
You know what you will get for Duck Hunt though?
Huh?
Mobile game. Tapping
on them ducks.
Taparoo.
Taparoo.
I like that. All right. At L3MIEUX. Lemmix? Lemmy?
I don't know.
Let me.
What is it? Let me see it. Oh, it's Lemieux.
Lemieux. You can't play any more games unless you spend a year in prison. Yes or no? I say lock me up. That's what he
Why is that the
Oh.
choice though? Like what happened?
I don't know.
There's got to be a story. The authorities are just gonna come. Like, sir, you're done.
Yeah.
You either sit in prison for a whole year, or you're never playing a video game again. I need
They
more
ban
information.
video games. I guess that's what they do.
Yeah,
Maybe
there's
unless
better
you do
games.
prison.
Maybe it springs from that guy who tried to get an NES in his prison. They wouldn't let him.
Oh yeah.
I think-
Oh
what
yeah.
was
The
it? Who was
hacker.
it? Yeah. How was it?
I don't know. I need more information.
I wouldn't do it. I mean, what kind of? I guess. Okay, here's where the more information comes in. I want to know what kind of. Is it a federal pound me in the ass prison or what's going on?
Yeah. White collar.
Yeah.
White collar.
Yeah. Is it like
penitentiary?
I just walk around and do whatever I want? I don't want to do it. I don't want to go to prison.
Yeah, no, I don't. Just games are done for you.
For a year, or was it for the year?
For a year.
Games are done forever, or just for 1 year?
Games are done forever.
Unless I'm in prison.
Yeah.
What about when I get out of prison? They're still done.
No, they're back.
Yeah.
So it's a 1 year moratorium on games, no matter what.
No. That's not the way I read it. The question is, you are not allowed to play games anymore unless you
So
go
it's
to
just
prison
me.
for 1 year.
Just me.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or maybe all of us.
Then no. If that's the stipulation, then I'll just take a year off of gaming, and it'll be really hard, and I'll hate it. But I'll have comics and movies. And
That's
But
not
you
what
would
he's
go-
saying.
yeah.
You can never play games again. I don't understand why you don't get this question. I'm confused on why you're having such a hard time grabbing
So
this.
now, if I go to jail for a year, I get to play games in jail.
I don't know if that's how.
Jesus Christ! Are you kidding me? He's saying you can't play. Give me the phone.
Can you use it in a
You
sentence?
can't play any more games unless you spend a year in prison. You can't play any more games unless you spend a year.
Are you playing games?
Holy shit! Time's taking its toll on you, Greg.
Now it's a real question. Now it's a real thought.
Now you get it.
Now I got to think about it.
I don't know if I could, man.
You're like, no. After a year, I'll just play games. I was like, what are you talking about? That's not the question. You can never play them unless you spend a year in prison.
I guess I'll do it then. Yeah, I'll take the year in prison.
You'd go to prison?
Yeah.
Fuck, man. I don't know if I could last.
I can play all the
think
games I want in prison.
Okay, we're moving on from this. I'm saying no. At Jeff Stott wants to know, if you could replace one game's soundtrack with another, what would it be and why?
One game soundtrack with another.
That's an interesting question. I think for me, the first thing that comes to mind would be the later Metal Gears.
Oh, fuck.
With
That's
Metal
a
Gear
really
2.
good one. That's a
Just
really
because
good
I want the Metal Gear 2 theme song. Yeah.
That question's too hard. I don't have an answer for it.
The other thing would be, I feel like a lot of this isn't answering your question, but it's the idea. I feel like I would rather a lot of the Final Fantasy games to have the orchestrated versions of their music kind of put in them. Like Final Fantasy 7, that whole era, the PlayStation era Final Fantasy games, like they don't sound good at all. Because it's not, they're like, it's weird,
all compressed.
compressed sample based shit. It's like Final Fantasy 6 and below, classic chip tune, that sounds great. Then later they get all orchestrated, but it's like, or even through 10, man, 10 sounds fucking bad. And it's like, if we could just replace it with the new orchestrated versions, that'd be fucking dope.
The good news is the soundtrack of 10 is the least of its problems. High five.
I hate you so much. Do you have an answer?
No.
Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah, no, that's kind of like a fucking.
That's really.
I would say probably none.
That's a detailed one, and it's hard to think. I can't think of a game I've played where I'm like, this soundtrack sucks.
but it would fit.
But I really wish Uncharted
I
was
wish-
laid over it. You know what I mean? Like, no.
Yeah.
Games, I kind of have a trouble separating those experiences. You know what I mean?
Interesting.
The only one I've ever successfully separated and remapped was when I played Super Mario World on SNES, and I had Pinkerton played nonstop.
There you go.
Every time
You would replace-
I'd come home. But that doesn't count because that's not a game soundtrack. And the soundtrack to Super Mario World's awesome.
Yeah.
I had already played it for like an entire summer at Matt Noel's basement, so I didn't
So you
need...
knew.
I knew the real music.
At Chilruit22 says, what do
Chilru-
you guys like to read? And are there decent game-based novels or vice versa? So I'm going to ask a different question based on this.
Okay.
Would you guys read video game-based novels?
If they were decent,
Yeah. Some games have huge, robust, like Mass Effect. I think has a pretty
Halo
robust.
does. Halo has
yeah.
like its own like guy
Alfredo
managing the universe.
was
yeah.
like so into the Halo books.
Yeah.
Before there's like a million of them. Back
Yeah,
when
yeah,
there was
yeah.
just a handful that were canon and stuff. He fucking loved it.
But I mean, like, I have to say no, I wouldn't, because like Uncharted. I remember we got proofs of the Uncharted book, and I didn't even bother reading it. I was just like, no, I don't. It's not how I want this experience.
Yeah, typically, I'm trying to think. Like, I read the Homefront book. That was the
course
prequel
you
to
did.
Homefront because I was really into that, and it was interesting. The video game book that just sticks in my mind most is Empire, which is the book that Orson Scott Card wrote. For Shadow Complex. That is kind of the lead into, like, Shadow Complex has no real context, so the book is kind of the context for Shadow Complex. I thought it was interesting, but generally, I mean, I don't know. I feel like the games should tell you their stories themselves. I think there's some games that would be interesting books, like BioShock. I think would be a great book, for sure. But not necessarily. I'm not necessarily seeking this shit out. You know? Yeah.
I read the novelization of Resident Evil 1. I don't know why I did that. It
I'll
was
give a shout
really
out
weird.
here. I'll give a shout out here to, and you're gonna laugh, but stick with me, the Injustice comic book, because that was better than the story of the game, and that went on way longer. It was really a really interesting Superman story, but that wasn't based on the video. It wasn't. I didn't like that because of the video game. I liked it because of the characters and the world that didn't spawn
I guess that's
from
true.
the video game. Didn't start the universe and the characters. You know what I mean? So that doesn't really count. But
There was a super dope Choose Your Own Adventure Luigi book I read when I was young, and I liked that. I read many times. Seeing the
Luigi
different
walks
paths.
to his closet. If he picks a green hat, go to page 2.
Yeah.
If he
Choose
picks
Your
a
Adventure
red,
was the worst.
if he picks a red hat, shut the book.
I used to just like cheat and just read
Just, read through all the different options.
or you get the option to be like, you're dead. And I'd be like, oh, fuck. And then I just go back and just take the other options. Like, am I supposed to stop here? This thing reminded me that
That's the end.
that Destiny could use a lot of fleshing out in books.
Yeah.
Yes. The Audio Jedi asks, can a game show too much before it's released?
Yes.
Kind of like movie trailers giving away too much.
Yeah,
Entirely.
I
happens
think
all the
yeah,
time.
I think it's with both movies and games, it's happening more and more.
Yeah. And I think especially for us, when we get to play games before and see them before they're finished,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
like it's hard to actually get a good experience with games now because it's just like you do know too much. And not even just seeing, even just reading. I feel like even back in the day, you could overread about a game
Oh, sure.
and just know too much about it.
And there's such a thing too as on the flip side of doing demos that are too big or too much, like Dusky or whatever, Dusky
Yeah,
or
Final
whatever.
Fantasy
Like
15.
it's like I read somewhere that's getting a patch.
Yeah.
I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? Make the game. You know, like what? Like it's done. You released the demo. It's over. Stop wasting your time on these things. You know.
Yeah.
Good lord, that game's never gonna come out.
Randomer wants to know, why aren't there more 4-player co-op games?
I think there are a lot
There's
of
a lot
forty.
Yeah, I feel like
yeah,
now
yeah.
there's a lot of like indie ones and stuff. Co-op,
Oh, co-op
no.
maybe not.
Yeah, they're usually a little more competitive, like Tower Fall and stuff like that. But there was a fair amount of co-op
Diablo.
ones. There's like all the like the Rayman games and the
Left 4 Dead,
new
Diablo.
Super Mario Bros, Left 4 Dead. Yeah.
Call of Duty Extraction.
Yeah, there's a fair amount.
Yeah, but more probably because the market doesn't need them or want them.
Sammy J93.
Sammy J.
Were you guys ever scared that games would turn into just your job rather than stay as something you enjoy to do as a hobby? Or have you ever witnessed this happen to someone as they just got sick of games altogether?
Yeah, I mean, I've been on the verge. I've been in that situation a few times where I wouldn't play games for a few months because I just couldn't do it anymore. So yeah, it's a fear. I found a better balance.
Yeah.
And
That's the thing
yeah.
is, being able to change an audible, right? Like I've never been afraid of it because I knew I would nip it in the bud. But it's like the same thing. If like it burned me out on the job front, then I would try to find a new job. I wouldn't stop playing games or whatever, you know what I mean? Nor would I stick around and resent games.
Yeah, something that's always been interesting to me is I've always, I think, been more into reading about games, knowing about games than actually playing them. And that's weird as shit, but it's just like, it's just how I am. Like, I
Yeah.
like game culture and I like talking about it and I like, everything that goes into it.
Sure.
So for me, it's like, it does get a little scary though when I'm like, I'm too entrenched in that instead of the actual playing the games. But then there's moments like me playing Shovel Knight where I'm like, this is why I like video games
Yeah,
and this is
yeah.
why I always will like video games. And this is why I'm a gamer. It's like, no one can take that away from me, no matter what.
No one's gonna take it away from you.
Yeah.
Can't take that away.
This is the last question for the day. Will Schuster wants to know, do you think games will reach the point where graphically they will be completely indistinguishable from real life? If yes, will that be a good thing or a bad thing?
Yeah, I think so. I think that's the
time.
future of VR. So it's a matter of, is it a good thing? I think it could be a good thing. I mean, we saw when remember VHS games and
Yeah.
like Night Trap and all that shit.
Yeah.
Like those were just real those were just real footage that you then played the game over. And a lot of we were talking about lightgun games, like a lot of early lightgun games were like
Mad Dog and all
yeah,
that
like
crap.
all that
Area
weird shit.
51.
And that shit sucked. But they tried. I mean, they've been trying to do this for 25 years. I think, yeah, eventually, absolutely, it'll be seamless. Whether or not that's a good thing or not, I don't know. I always think there's going to be there needs to be a. We were talking about it with The Last of Us, I think, some time ago. Like the game looks very realistic, but there's something not realistic about it.
Well, yeah,
and I
having
think
said
that's something.
I don't think that there ever will happen. Like, I don't think we'll ever see a game that if you watch it, you're going to be like, is this real life? Because if you look at a still, I think we've already hit that point where there's certain, you can look at a screenshot of a game and be like, wait, is that real or not? The second it's in motion, you know it's not real. And I don't think we'll ever break that. Like, I'd be really surprised because I don't even think we broke that with like CG movies and stuff. Like, there'll be little bits and pieces, but there's always something that happens that you're like, okay, like I know that this isn't real.
Oh, I totally disagree. I think it'll happen. I think that as processing power exponentially increases in these computers and stuff like that, it's going to require developers that are able to do this. But think about mocap. Like mocap is happening and making realistic animations for games like I think The Last of Us. Yeah, there's something not real about it, but the animation is not the problem with that game to make it not real. I think that there's an inherent. It's the same thing with Uncharted. There's an intentional thing that makes it not look real. Like, it's not that they're trying to make it look as realistic as possible. They go all the way and then they step it back, and put like that something to it. I talked about this with you a long time ago. I remember we talked about this. Maybe it was on Beyond, where someone brought up that point where it's like they go, and then they walk it back a little bit because it's like there's still something.
They're still animating. They're still doing something. It's the same reason that they animate the actors' mouths, right? It's not like Infamous's tech, which is like, they had the balls, they paid attention to everything. They filmed the face, they filmed Nolan, Troy, Ashley, whoever, and then an animator goes there and makes everything, but then they have more range of movement in the face to do whatever they want with that, Ellie or Joel or Drake or whoever.
Because remember that there's Unreal 5 pictures, right? We did this on Colin and Greg Live. I think it's Unreal 5 or whatever the new Unreal Engine is, where people rendered like apartments that look indistinguishable from fake things. Like they are totally indistinguishable. Like you could show that picture to someone and be like, "This is my apartment," and they'd be like, "Oh, it's beautiful."
Yeah.
So like if they can do that with environments, obviously doing that with a person is going to be harder.
But that's my thing though, is you can show them a picture, but if you showed them that video. Like, and I remember the video you're talking about. It was mind-blowing. But the video, is not real, though. It's not so much the animation as much as it's the sheen things have. And I don't think that you can get rid of that. Like,
you will, though. That's the whole thing. Is like, I'm with you right now. For where we are right now, in the next 5 years, it's not going to happen, right? But I think beyond that, moving forward, it's totally going to happen because they'll solve those problems. You know what I mean?
I don't know.
The day they figure out how to fucking animate a pillow. And covers. That's the one, right? And that was like one of the things I ever pulled away from whatever GDC talk I was at, right? Is that if you'll notice, watch people get into bed. They never cover themselves with a blanket, and the pillow never reacts because those are the hardest things to animate. They just can't make it look real, so they don't do it.
Yeah, but see, I think you guys are even taking this even further than I am with the animation and stuff, because that's a whole other layer. That will they nail that? Yeah, probably. Like that's.
So you're just talking about in-game.
I'm talking about the look of it, like because even take video games out of it, just CG in general, like in movies, like. They still haven't figured it out. Like it's still,
but it's close all the time.
It's close, but it's like it is close. But I don't think there's ever been an example of it being that close, where you're like, oh, we're gonna get there, where it is indistinguishable. Maybe for the seconds, maybe for whatever, but it's like as an overall experience, I don't think we're ever gonna get a video game that you can't tell the difference. And it has to do with so much different things. The animation, in addition to the look and the sheen and the colors and reflections and light and all that stuff, in addition to what's in focus. Like we were talking about this on Game of Grey's show today. It's like, if I'm looking at you right now, how do you replicate what's going on my sides?
Right.
I don't think they'll ever figure that out. And especially when you're playing a game, replicating that isn't a video game then. Then it's a weird simulator.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like video games need a little bit more. So I don't know. We'll see. But I doubt it.
In 50 years from now, you and I will be in the nursing home together.
Yeah.
Your girlfriend will be dead.
Yeah.
My girlfriend will be dead. We'll be chilling there, and I'm going to poke you in the ribs and show you something.
And I'm going to show you the new shirt.
Good.
Tim was right. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been the last ever episode 22 of the Kind of Funny Gamescast. Leave your comments over in the forums at kindoffunny.com/forums. Go sign up. There's a thriving community there. It's really fun. Probably the best community on the internet, I will say. They are so positive, and it's the best. I really like them.
Yeah,
I like
I
you
do
guys. I like you guys a lot. Thank you so much, Colin. Thank you
welcome.
so much, Greg. Thank you, Kevin. Being
Really?
here on your birthday, wearing your little skinny shirt. I'm happy about this. Kevin lost a lot of weight.
At the very beginning of the show, I took a photo, and me about her to go. What it was that Kevin one of his buttons had come undone, so I had just fucking right on to the belly button. I needed to capture that moment, so that's what I did there. No, I don't
Good
need to see it
Lord.
again. I have it. It's okay.
God, we were talking about black holes earlier. Good Lord.
Looks like Gargantua.
There you go.